Have you ever felt that life is hard? Life is unfair. Life is so complicated. It can be amazing, but you know what? It's tough. It's tough. And, we live in a world of external forces. We live in a world of performance, living up to other people's expectations, and we feel like happiness is out there somewhere, and it's up to us to find it. The fact of the matter is, it's not. Episode 160 of Finding Better. Kristan Swan is joining me, and she's going to share her journey, and she's going to help us understand that we actually have all the answers ourselves. And going through that journey and exploring what that means, it's amazing. We talk about finding better. We talk about using other people's experiences and following other people's wisdom and how they found better. And we're going to do that on this episode, but it's going to be one of the most empowering episodes in you that we've ever had. Here we go. Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And this is where we talk about experiences, real life experiences. We don't talk about academics. We don't even talk about opinions. We don't talk about theories. We talk about real life experiences and wisdom because, sometimes the best path to success is to follow in the footsteps of people who've been there and done that. And today I have with me Kristan Swan. Kristan is a business coach, and what she describes herself as an experiential learner, which is amazing because this is an experiential podcast. So we're just going to have a great conversation. And what that means is she learns from her mistakes. She also learns from her successes. And she's here to share how all that works. The podcast is called Finding Better. And this is all about finding better. Now, one of the things that she talks about is that one of the hardest things in the world for us to do is to trust ourselves. And trusting yourself, and the idea being, how do you trust yourself in a world that is constantly telling us how and what to be, right? And as a lot of you know, one of the reasons why I started this podcast is because there's just so much BS out there. And I call them messages of inadequacy that are just bombarding us all the time, telling us that we're not good enough, telling us that we need to buy their product to live a happy life, telling us that if we're not like them, we're losers, right? And so the whole thing with what Kristen and I are going to talk about today is starting that the place to start is to know yourself, right?
Yes. Yeah. You've
Because
got to start. May I jump
yeah,
in? I mean,
yeah, 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 yeah.
you know, this is all, you know, these are topics that I have lived, and these are topics that in my business coaching, and even being a parent, being a friend, just being a member of the community, I mean, my heart has gone out to people who are struggling because I have been there, right? And
Absolutely.
it really, the knowing yourself, I mean, the way that I think about it is kind of a relatively simple equation, right? I think that you have to start with some curiosity, right? So just some curiosity about who you are and your place in the world, or your place in this time. And from
And
there,
curiosity is hard, right? I mean,
curi-
that's a muscle that a
yes,
lot of us have lost
it is hard
because,
because
we learned that curiosity kills a cat. Well, we don't want to be a dead cat, right?
no, we
You
don't
know,
want to be a dead
but
cat.
you're absolutely right in the curiosity part of it. It's so important.
Yeah, you've got it. And so, I mean, a lot of times, and to your point in the introduction, there is so much noise, right? And there's in it, and it can be, we can, we essentially can be incredibly passive in our own lives, right?
Totally. Totally.
And so there is that curiosity piece. And I always am reminding myself, I mean, the thing that I like to challenge myself on is what's a better question? I'm always trying to get at what is, I mean, asking questions is a great place to start. And then I always want to know, like, well, what's the better question to ask, right? Like, what is,
Ooh,
so that's kind of, again, that's that curiosity muscle too,
you know,
yeah.
is what? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's just if you don't know, if you're thinking to yourself, I don't know where to start, it's just by asking a question. And then you
Yeah.
you kind of build on that.
And understanding that whatever question you ask, you will get an answer on,
Yes.
right? Somehow, some way, the universe is going to give you an answer. So if you ask really bad questions, you're
Yeah.
probably going to get really bad answers. And so I loved what you said about better questions. And another thing that you said is that it's really hard to trust somebody you don't know, right? I mean, everybody out there,
Mm,
it is. It's hard to trust someone you don't know. So if you don't know yourself, if you don't know who you are and you don't know yourself,
yeah.
kind of can be hard to trust yourself, which is contrary to what you're saying, is that we have to learn to trust ourselves,
We
right?
do.
Which
We
means we have to get
Yes.
to know ourselves.
We have to get to know ourselves so that you've got that curiosity piece,
Yeah.
which is basically saying, hey, who am I? Right. And who do I want to be? Right. Or also kind of, I think another part of knowing yourself is asking, I mean, maybe that next level of question is, okay, so who am I? And you can start. I mean, I think for myself, for many, many years, if you had asked me, Kristan, who are you? I would have rattled off a whole laundry list of all of my kind of assigned and assumed roles, right? I'm
Yes.
a daughter, I'm a granddaughter, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a coach, I'm a volunteer. I mean, it would be, but then is that really who I am? Those are the
Right.
labels. And then kind of the next layer is, who am I within these different roles? What do these roles mean to me? Are they important to me? Do I want to accept this label, right? Or is there something else? So it's asking all these questions, and then from there
So before
you
before we go
oh
before we
yeah.
go before we go on to that, you know, I my personal feeling on what you just said is that it's so important because I don't think there's anybody listening that will disagree with the statement. We live in a rat race, right?
Right.
And meaning that we're constantly going after the next thing and we're constantly trying to please people and we're constantly living in a performative society, right? Where you have to
Yeah.
perform. And it's one of those things where what I learned a bunch of years ago is that I was living my life based on other people's expectations,
Yeah,
right?
you and me and a
Right?
whole bunch of other people out there,
And
right?
and hopefully that'll trigger everybody that's listening to this that says, are you living based on your expectations of your life, or are you really living because you want to keep up with that one person who keeps buying a new car every year, or you have to perform at your
Yeah.
job, right? I mean, based on the expectations of others. Because then one of the next steps is working on the curiosity. Okay, so what does that mean? Right? I am a coach. I am a salesperson. I am a scientist. I am a friend. I am all these different kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
But what does that mean? And who am I? And that's what you're saying, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it was interesting. My daughter was visiting this last week, and, she's early in her career, and she has kind of the blessing and the curse of a relatively non-specific major that she studied. degree. So I say it's a blessing because it can kind of, she studied communication and psychology. So you know, she did a great job. She made it through, and, and kind of, what do you like, that actually is applicable to everything, right? And
Indeed.
so, and then sometimes, and then when you get into that paradox of choice, right, where you're saying, oh gosh, what do you want to be? There's endless options. That is daunting. So there's that tension. And I was trying to think of a way that I would recommend to, particularly, I think this would have been so helpful for me growing up and as a young person, because I mean, bless my mom. However, one of her messages was, you can be anything you want to be, right? And that's a lovely, positive message. And what I think would have been more helpful is just maybe some guidance around, how do you even figure out what the
No
heck
kidding.
you
No
want to
kidding.
be, right?
Yep.
And so
Yep.
I was thinking about that. And what I came up with is, I would love to recommend anyone who's feeling, and I don't care what age you are or where you are in your journey. Think about think about kind of the craziest, what feels like the craziest way that you would love to kind of make money. And it's not, and I what would you love to do as a profession? Because it's not
Hmm.
all about money. But,
Hmm.
and I mean, thinking about the things that you love to do in the course of the day, right? I mean, you may love reading novels, okay? So if you were to sit there and say, gosh, what if, what if this could be my job? Like, how great would this be? Well, I challenge you, to do some research and find someone who has made that a job, because I guarantee you there's someone out there who is reading novels and they get paid for it. And I think that can be true of, if you love baking dog biscuits. I mean, we see plenty of dog biscuit stores now.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
like,
true. That's true.
take anything that that you just love doing, and challenge yourself to say, even if you said, gosh, I love doing this, but there's no way I could ever make a career out of it. Yeah, there is. Because
Oh my
you can
gosh.
find someone out there.
Yeah. Okay. So, folks, what Kristen just said has got so much in there that I want to unwind. We're not going to be able to unwind all of it, but I do want to say this. I do want to say this. The world of majors is not the same anymore,
No.
right? And I'll just say this, and this may make a lot of people unhappy, but the world of sciences, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the rise of AI is replacing a lot of that skill and a lot of that. It's knowledge. It's knowledge. It's
Yeah.
intelligence, right? There
Yeah.
are kids that started in college in STEM degrees 4 years ago who are graduating today that cannot find work.
Yeah.
Companies, the big internet companies of the past, the big seven, are not recruiting for programmers in schools anymore. They're just not. And the world has changed so much. And if you fast forward, I honestly believe, and this may make a lot more people upset with me, that there is not a job on planet Earth that cannot be replaced by AI in the future. Not one. When you consider the knowledge jobs, okay, that's a done deal. When you consider the trades, when you consider anything that a human can do, here come robots. We
Mm-hmm.
know that this is going to happen. And so, a lot of people are really fearful of AI and they're fearful for the future. And the one thing that I tell people, which is what you just said, Kristen, is build the muscle of being scrappy. Build a
Mm-hmm.
muscle of being able to look around, to open your eyes, to explore, to be curious, to be curious. And what you just said, Kristen, is you said whatever it is you love to do, there is somebody out there who is making money doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Somebody
and
out
I
there.
and I and you can, with the internet, you can find these people, and you can, and then you can kind of, you can, and I will guarantee you that there's not even just one person, right? There's
Right.
probably a
Right.
handful, and they have, and every single person will have a different model of how they figured out to do this. So then
Exactly.
you can dive into that. And but I mean, just I love, I love what you're saying about being scrappy. And I feel like that, so much of my journey has been, well, I think I was great. I was very observant as a child.
Hmm.
And so just for a variety of reasons.
Good
And
muscle to build.
it's a
Yep.
great muscle to build. And so in that, I really, I always kind of was just paying attention to things, which, I mean, translated at, I don't know, 9, 10, 11, you know recognizing when my neighbors were going to go away for vacation, and knocking on their door beforehand and saying, hey, do you want me to water your plants? Do you want me to, take in your mail? Do you, if they had a pet that they were
Yeah.
leaving, which nobody does anymore, but they, can I take care of your pet? And I started working at a young age, because, and I just started doing things like that. I I kind of watched and kind of found the need and provided a solution.
And there are so many needs out there. I mean,
Oh my
it,
goodness,
and so,
yes.
and the whole idea is having an open mind,
Yeah,
right? Taking the blinders off and realizing that this is not a this is not a world of scarcity. It's such a huge world of abundance. But we have to
yeah,
be curious. We have to, again, there comes that curiosity muscle, right? Building that
yes,
curiosity muscle, knowing that things are out there, knowing a little bit more about yourself and what you love to do and how you want to change the world, because we're all put here to make the world better than the day we landed on it somehow, right? At
yes,
least that's what I
yes.
believe. And
Oh,
right?
absolutely. And that would be actually my other, if I had a companion piece to the idea of really paying attention to something that you love to do, and doing a deep dive on finding people who have made that a profession. The other direction I think that you could also go, and they're not mutually exclusive by any means, but is, what is one thing that you care deeply about? What is one thing in this world that you care deeply about? Maybe it's animals. We were just talking about pets. Maybe it is the ocean. You spend time near the ocean. Maybe whatever that thing is. And that's another place to just get really curious and do a deep dive. And that's an avenue that is has potential. I don't care what your, because you think about, if we are, someone who is their focus is the ocean. I mean, you may choose to be really into, coastline preservation. You might be into, reducing plastics. You might just be into, the quality of water. I mean, there's just, once you start, but just pick that one thing that you really, really care about. And that also can be a great path
And you
to
don't have,
go down.
yeah, and you don't have to commit your life to it, right?
No, 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 no,
Just
no.
just start
No, no, no,
learning
no.
about it and
Just all I'm suggesting is you start by learning about it. This isn't,
volunteer for a day, you know?
yes. Oh my
And just
gosh, yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and there's just so much, and and not to dig on your daughter, but you said that her majors were very general majors in
Yeah.
communications and psychology. My view, okay, 3 years ago, I would have been, okay, what's going to happen with that? A lot can happen with that, right?
Yes.
But today, given everything that's happening with AI and the rise of technology, and I've supported 5 generations of technology since the mid 80s. Okay.
Wow.
Artificial intelligence is nothing. There's a first technology that learns itself. right? And
Hmm.
the people who are creating artificial intelligence are realizing that the stuff is learning, is doing things they never intended it to do. And
Hmm.
so my view on, what is it that technology can't replace? Well, it's our humanity.
Right.
It can't replace. So what is right? What is more in the center of helping humanity than communications and psychology,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I go, whoa, that's pretty cool. So the world is changing so fast. And day after tomorrow, it might be different. But,
Oh my
the
God.
idea,
Well,
the things that
it's
you just said, yeah,
yeah, I mean, the AI that someone might be using today is not the same AI that they will be using tomorrow. I mean,
exactly.
that's how quickly things are changing. And I think back to kind of the earlier, kind of circling back on the idea of, are you living your life, or are you trying to live kind of someone else's expectations or ideas?
Right.
Um, I think what was always, it wasn't necessarily intentional on my part. I just think it's who I am, but I never really cared about job titles, or I just that wasn't important. And it wasn't until many years into my career that I realized the thing that matters most to me is, who am I working with? The people, whether it's my coworkers or my clients, or that is because that's the part of the work that, I mean, if you're working either for people that you are, you don't really get along with, or you're working, your client base are people that you don't really care for, that makes it a slog. That that
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
you
Oh my
know
God. Life is too short for that
it's
shit.
life is way too short. So I mean, I remember one friend who has always been in sales, and they've done software sales, and they have their resume makes sense, and they've been, you know financially successful, all these things. And I remember she's like, I don't really know what you do. And and I think, and you know, kind of initially there's a little bit of me that felt maybe defensive about that, because I was like, oh gosh, I that makes me, but then as I thought about it, I thought, yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, I am really okay with that, because I'm clear about what I do, and I I don't I don't need to impress her, or I don't my job is not to make it easy for her to put me in a box.
That what the way that you're feeling and that you felt comes with some maturity, right? And
Oh
comes
gosh,
with
yes.
with a lot of experience to be able to say, wait a minute, why is this important? Why, what? You know, okay, so I'm a guy who was in software sales and hardware sales for most of my life in high tech.
Mhm.
I am that person. I am your friend. I am that woman who is your friend, right? And but the thing that I've realized over the years is that with all the generations of technology, we've gotten really smart. And I recently coined a phrase that says we've gotten so smart, we've forgotten our heart.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I really do believe that. And I've said for the last 15 years, and when I give speeches and presentations and stuff, that someday technology is going to drive us into a renaissance of heart. And I
Yeah.
didn't know how it was going to happen, but I'm seeing it happen right now. That AI is driving us in in that direction, which is a really cool thing. Which is a really cool thing.
It
And
is a cool thing.
you know,
And I agree with you. I'm seeing the same thing. And I think, I mean, just last year I conceived of a workshop, an in-person workshop, because I was sitting there thinking I was ready to kind of make some adjustments to kind of the focus of my work and moving away from the one-on-one business coaching. And I I thought, I what is the one thing that I can do that will make the world a better place, even just,
Hmm.
one drop of water at a time or one grain of rice. And it was building community. And so
Yeah.
I
Yep.
am so excited to be working with people in groups, in person, and really having these conversations that are very heart driven. And what's been so just, has really kind of blown me away sometimes is how open and kind of how hungry people are for the
Absolutely.
what we are doing. and
Yeah.
and I'm not claiming that I'm doing anything new under the sun, but I just, I get people together, we ask questions, we write stories, and we share together. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And people are starving for it. People are
Yes.
starving for heart. And
Yeah.
the question I have for you,
Hmm.
there's a lot of folks out there who are introverts. There are a lot of folks out there who, you know, prefer to stay home with a computer screen than going out and putting themselves out there. And so
Yeah.
as you build community, have you how do you reach have you reached or figured out how to reach those people and how to encourage them to participate in community? And COVID did a number on a lot of us,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And all of a sudden we were forced to pigeonhole ourselves in our
Hmm.
homes, right?
Right.
Um, and so how do we, how have you found um, ways to bring people out and get people to participate in your communities?
Well, I mean, because I am a singular operation,
Hmm.
at this moment, I really, I rely on, I partner with places that already have, like, the local senior center,
Okay,
local, so I'm partnering with places that have an email list, that have a group of people that they can put this out to. And
that's
w-
wonderful.
so that has been, I mean, and also my main program is called Discovering Your Spiritual Autobiography, which is a completely non-denominational workshop. I'm not, there's no agenda on my part other than getting people together. And so what I have also done, because there are some people who, you put the word spirituality out there and
Hmm.
they're completely allergic to that. So I have started some other groups where we do something that's a little less. I mean, one way, because my initial workshop is 8 weeks, which a lot of people don't want to commit to 8 weeks, which I
Hmm.
understand. Um, and so, to your point of how do you kind of find different ways to get people to come in, is this past, I'm on hiatus right now, but couple months ago, I started doing these Friday salons. And so that was a way that people could just drop in. So again, kind of
Okay.
remove the barrier of committing to, what seems like forever. So they could come to one, and if they liked it, they could come to the next one, keeping the topics a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
And so kind of playing with the topics a bit and having kind of letting the sharing be a little bit more organic. So I, as I'm doing it, I'm kind of figuring out ways, kind of the workarounds for people's objections, right? Which are generally, um, oh, I can't plan that far out, or who's going to be there. And I keep the group small too. And I think
Hmm.
the other thing too is just to, I also am very, I mean, you can pretty much you can ask me anything. And I don't have, there's, there's, there's nothing to hide. So I think that that's kind of what I lead with too, is that I am, I'm learning by doing, right? I mean, this is all kind of an experiment. And and I do say this in my workshops. It's like we are co-creating here. So I think that also, especially in a world that maybe feels like is so out of control, is saying, come on in, let's do this together, like giving people also some agency within the process.
I think that is so important. And you say that you start with you, right? What I imagine is that you start with you and your own relatability to everybody else who's there, right? So you make yourself
Yeah.
relatable and you make yourself a little bit vulnerable.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and that's one piece that's so hard. Going back to what you originally said about trusting yourself and learning about yourself, a lot of people don't want to learn about themselves, right? A lot
No.
of people, a lot of people have a fear of doing that. And but it is so important because if you don't know yourself, how do you trust yourself is what you said.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. One thing that you said is that grit and resilience are skills that are necessary to survive in uncertainty. Now we are going
Yeah.
into we're going to a level of uncertainty this world has never seen before, right?
Yeah.
So talk about grit and resilience.
Well, it's funny because even as you were just saying it in the moment, I think that my relationship with those words has evolved over time, right?
Okay.
And I always, one of my favorite phrases, anyone who spends any amount of time with me will hear me say, there are wallpaper words, right? There are these words that we now are throwing around with, so they're buzzwords, but even more so, they're just so commonly used. And there's somewhat of a kind of a societal understanding of what they mean. And grit and resilience have become some of those wallpaper words, right? And success is one, abundance, right? There's even spirituality, right? Is, I mean, these are words that it is worth saying, okay, there's an academic definition, there's kind of the culturally accepted definition. What's my definition for this? And what does this look like for me? And so I think the evolution of grit and resilience for me, I think earlier in my life I would have been there would have been kind of a hardness to me. Been a there would have been this sense like I'm just gonna,
Gotta
muscle
fight through
through.
it. Yeah,
I'm gonna
exactly.
fight through it, right? I'm just gonna
Yeah,
and
that's right.
and I'm expecting that it's not gonna feel good, it's gonna hurt, and it's gonna, that no pain, no gain, all that kind of stuff. And there would have been that to it. And, I think just having lived more years and also having having these experiences, right, is I think of those, I mean, I think the bottom line to both of those things, grit and resilience, is you just keep showing up. You keep showing up. And some days, and you don't even have to show up 100%. You just show up in the way that you can. And for many years as a business coach, I'd get clients, and oftentimes they would hire me. They wouldn't hire me when I wanted them to hire me, which was kind of at the beginning of their journey. It was when it was, crisis, right? And so we'd have to do a little triage, and so they'd come with these, what felt like these big problems. And I think my initial reaction, like so many people, was, well, okay, let's worst case scenario this, right? What's the worst thing that can happen in this instance, right? The client can fire you or whatever. You don't get paid for that, okay. And then we kind of, you go through the steps, and really what you're asking yourself in that reptilian brain of yours is, am I going to live? Right? Is
Yeah.
this going to kill me
Yeah.
or not? Is what you're, and so I still would do that, but there was a point in my coaching life that I started saying, I'm willing to do the worst case scenario thing with you. And will you humor me? And can we think about maybe best case scenarios? Or and and kind of the kind of funny and magical thing about best case scenarios is that it's actually kind of hard to think about them, because we like the best case scenarios are probably things that we cannot even think of, right? There's this world of possibility of ways that things could turn out that will be really good, right? And
Yeah.
we just, because we haven't experienced that yet, we don't have that really to draw from, even if we read case studies or whatever. So I think that and that's scary, because there's a sense of the unknown, right? Which none of us, we're not that comfortable with the unknown. However, I do think if you are willing to entertain the idea of thinking about a best case scenario, or stepping into that realm of possibility, you just have to look at a couple of instances in your own life where, kind of look at the data points that you have. How often did the worst case scenario happen?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that
And
often.
it's just, we are, you called it our reptilian brain, right? I mean, our brains have not evolved as quickly
No.
as our
No,
environment has, right? And so,
not at all.
right, and our brains are wired for survival. Our
Yes.
brains are wired to look at the worst case scenario. It's
Yeah.
fight or die, right,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And now we don't, we're not, it could happen, but top of mind for me is not being eaten by a grizzly bear.
Exactly.
And, but still our minds are there of looking for the worst case scenarios. So, um, helping people, and this is where the curiosity thing comes back in, helping people understand and be able to start building that muscle of exploring best case scenarios,
Yeah.
right? I think is a super gift. It's a
And
gift.
it's not easy. I mean, I'm not, and I'm always, I think, um, going back to grit and resilience, there is, when you're in a tough moment, it's horrible. My failures that have given me tremendous life lessons that I am very grateful for, I don't want to be glib or gloss over the fact that when you're in it, yeah,
Oh, it's
it's
terrible.
it's terrible. It's terrible. You would do you're not sure when you feel like you're not sure you're ever going to get out of it, right? There is no light at the end of the tunnel, right? I mean, you're just in it and it just doesn't feel good. And that I think is where I go back to what does grit and resilience look like for me? And it's kind of that one foot in front of the other and you just show up and you show up, like I said, it does, you don't have to, everyone's like, oh, bring your best self. And you show up the way that you can. And that's,
You
and
know,
that is just, and that's absolutely okay.
as you were talking, um, I have this book. It's called American Grit,
Yes.
right? And so I was thinking about that story. And, the people that I write this book about had incredible grit, had incredible resilience, but they also knew themselves
Hmm.
and they also knew their why.
Yeah.
They knew their why. Their why, in the case of the people that I wrote about, was because their families were imprisoned in American concentration camps and they wanted to fight for a better life and prove that these Japanese Americans are as deserving to be recognized as Americans as any other American.
Yeah.
That's a huge why. That's a
Yeah.
gigantic why. And so these guys put themselves out there with machine guns firing at them and bombs blowing up around them. And went on to become some of the most decorated war heroes in the history of this country, coming out of having volunteered from these American concentration camps while their families were still imprisoned as they went off to war.
Yeah.
And they just did it. So I don't, I don't, I'm not advocating, trying to find your way into an internment camp um, to find your grit and resilience. But knowing your why will get you up in the morning. Knowing your
Yes.
why will help you fight through it. Knowing your why that's bigger than just yourself kind of makes it a whole lot easier.
It,
to,
yes,
to,
yes,
right?
it
And
it does.
one
It
step at a
makes
time.
it clear, not always, it's simple, not easy, right?
Yeah, and so this has all been kind of a circular conversation, and we've come back to, and what I mean by that is that we've come back to knowing yourself,
Yeah,
trusting yourself, and knowing yourself. And you know what? It's one of those things where if you go through that cycle that we just went through, you can move mountains, but it
yeah.
requires us to change our mindset a little bit, right? We don't have to have all the answers, folks.
No, no, no,
As
no, no, no.
Kristen was just saying,
Yeah.
right? If you have a question of, I love, I love to lick postage stamps. Go online and find somebody who's making a business out of licking postage stamps, right?
That's
I don't
right.
know. I don't mean to be facetious, but the opportunities out there are crazy, and building that
Yeah,
muscle of curiosity and the things that we talked about are things that if you do these things today and you start today, they'll serve you for the rest of your life, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, my why is because I think that the next kind of the part of the reason why we also want to be knowing ourselves and trusting ourselves is we do less harm when we know ourselves and we trust ourselves. We do less harm to ourselves because we will be making decisions that are in alignment with who we really are, and we do less harm to others. And, my why really is just creating a space, or, if I can guide people towards taking some time to get to know themselves, and then realizing that they can trust themselves, because we all have so much more wisdom and knowledge than we give ourselves credit for, especially in a external world of lots of voices.
Not to get into religion, but God has given every one of us superpowers. And
Yeah.
every one of you out there who's listening has a superpower. And that's the reason for this whole podcast, right? Is just to reach one or two people. It's amazing that I've got almost 2,700 subscribers to my YouTube channel. I don't know how that happens, but it's giving people hope, right? And reaching
Yes.
one person, because if you lift one person, you really do lift the world.
Yeah.
And we talked about so many things. The last thing I just want to reflect back on that you said was dealing with really sucky people. You know, I have a cardinal rule in my life. I do not deal with unpleasant people. I've been in software and hardware sales my entire career, and I have refused to deal with unpleasant people. And people ask me all the time, they say, John, you're in sales. How can you do that? I fired clients before
Yeah.
because life is just too short. And you know what, folks? You think about it. Just think about one or two really unpleasant people in your life and how wonderful you would feel if you had the opportunity to fire them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fire them as friends, fire them as just find somebody else who's much more pleasant, much more respectful, nicer to you. And it changes your life. And it's always your choice. Whether
Yes.
you believe that or not, it's always your choice. When you surround yourself with positive people, the energy is going to lift you. And
Yeah.
when you surround yourself with negative people, it does the exact opposite. So, Kristen, what you said about building communities, I encourage everybody, just reach out to people. Reach out to
Yeah.
people. Reach out to those stamp lickers that
I know,
reach out.
right?
Just start. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, or whatever that Asian thing was. But
Yeah.
anyway,
No, I know. I mean, I was thinking about it the other day. I thought, my kind of my out there goal is, a million conversations, right? I want to be creating a space for a million plus conversations to be happening, and just learning about ourselves and each other, and being kind.
being kind, because that's what we're
Yeah.
here for. That's what we're
Oh
here. We're
gosh.
not. We weren't born to be assholes, folks. We were. We were.
No.
We were born. We were born to love each other and to make this world better. And Kristen, I'm gonna encourage you to set your sights a little higher. Forget the million. Go for a billion.
Thank you.
Okay.
I
Go
am.
for a billion.
Okay.
Okay. You can do this, right? I mean, um, just keep going. Just keep going,
I'm just going to keep showing up.
right? And you're changing the world. You've changed the world already. You changed my world, and
Thank
it's a
you.
wonderful, wonderful thing. Kristen, every your contact information and everything is in the show notes. Is
Great.
there anything else you'd like to leave with my audience?
Oh, well, just keep showing up. Know that it's hard for all of us. And
You're not
you
alone.
show up. You are not alone. You're not alone, and you matter.
Yeah.
We need you. We
Yes.
need you.
Yes.
So keep
You
showing
know,
up.
I always end my shows with "I love you and God bless you."
Yeah.
And those aren't empty words. Kristen, I love you. God bless you. Thank you for joining me. And,
Mm,
I'm not, those aren't just empty words, and to my
no.
audience, I love you. God bless you, right? Keep going. And like Kristen said, no, you're not alone. And, it's a journey. It's a journey.
Yes.
And every
Yes.
journey has its ups and downs. Life sucks, but life is beautiful. Life is unfair, but life has a way of working itself out. And this is a podcast about finding better. So, folks, please share this. There's someone out there that needs to hear this message. Okay, Kristen, thank you again,
Thank
and
you, John,
thank
and
you for all you do.
keep doing this. Thank you for all you do.
Wonderful,
This is great.
wonderful. Okay, folks, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.